Hello, Culture Matters podcast. Before I introduce you to our guest, here's a quote I picked just for this episode. Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. Henry Ford, our guest, dear friend of mine, part of the Culture Matters family, Christopher Vester. Wow, where do I start? I mean, if you haven't heard him on the podcast, I implore you to listen a little bit more because he's a part of our family and on the podcast, an amazing guest. You know, the Vester family to me is family, and my life is better because of you and because of your family by like an ineffable amount. You've written books. You've got one I want to talk about today, and shoot, I mean, like talk about connect the dots. Chris Vester, without Chris Vester, I don't see Culture Matters the way it is today. That's what I want to tell the audience.
And I appreciate all that. That's a heavy weight to carry.
Good thing you've been bodybuilding for many years. Answers from the stairs. So I watched originally, and anyone listening to this, they can follow Chris. What's your Instagram handle?
HV Auto COO.
And where are they? Can they see the answers from the stairs videos as well?
Yeah. So, Reels has happened since, but in the original format of those were IGTV. So if you click over to where it says Reels in the left-hand corner, it'll say series. If you click series, all of those videos will be there. All 300.
The reason I want you, the listeners, to go there is because Chris has, hundreds of insightful, helpful, practical, and also philosophically rewarding insights right there. And I guess the first question for anyone listening to this that may have an interest in putting themselves out there, but's hesitant. What did you face? What fears? How did you overcome it? Like, let's start there.
Whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. It's perfect in that, right? It was just a matter of doing. I got challenged by the guy that was handling our marketing at the time. In 2018, it was June of 2018, he pushed me to the challenge of trying to create some type of a YouTube channel or something where there was a face. And if I go to YouTube, I'm either looking for a new motorcycle or something in my house is broken. I just don't, it's not an entertainment source for me. And, or at the time it wasn't. And, but I did spend some time on Instagram, and he called me one day. He goes, "Hey, Instagram's doing something new. It's called Instagram TV. Nobody's there yet. You need to be there." So I'm like, okay, well, that's an easy, I can just add that into my life because it's a platform I already use. And I had, you mentioned bodybuilding, so spent some time on the stair mill a lot for cardio. It was kind of it still is my favorite form of cardio. And while I was there, I'm either listening to a book or a podcast or a sermon or something, trying to grow and get better. And I took a picture of it one day, and just as a joke, I said, I heard there's answers at the top, because you never get to the top. And so I said to him, I said, "Hey, I'll just call it Answers from the Stairs. And I'll just do a quick video about what I learned that day climbing the stairs." And Answers for the Stairs were born. I bought a selfie gimbal and took a 5-minute walk, unpacked what I learned. And in the beginning, like literally, there was very little editing. There's nothing to it. And then as I got better at it and developed to me a better way to communicate, then I started doing some self-editing and things like that. And what I found, the idea was I could find customers and or future potential employees for the organization. And I really discovered I had a voice there because I moved them from Instagram. I would also repost them on LinkedIn. And again, Instagram TV was brand new, so there's not a lot of people using it. But, LinkedIn's big already. but video was new there. So it got a lot of traction there. I mean, I think when I first started doing it on LinkedIn, maybe there was, I don't know, a couple hundred people I was connected with in the space. Wow. And I think over the course of Answers from the Stairs, it grew to over 6,000, which is not a huge to LinkedIn, but pretty substantial growth. And most of the conversations I was having made sense to people that are in business in some form. It's, culture challenges, was one of them. And, how do we show up as leadership, and like, how do we mentor those that we're stewarding in our business? So those things was kind of what I would study the most. But it was just a matter of, funny story. The very first one I did, I record this thing, and I had a phone that had an SD card, and my SD card was too full. So I did this 5-minute video and had nothing. Right. So the next day, new SD card, I got to tell the story of, hey, always be prepared.
Wow.
Learning from the very first episode. So that was July the 3rd of 2018.
And those LinkedIn connections, the few hundred to the thousands, would you say that broadened your influence within even your specific industry?
I think so. I mean, I'd say I'm probably 90% of the people that are connected to me on that platform are in the automotive, or connected to automotive. One of they're either in it directly or connected to it somehow. And then the other 10%, I'd love to ask them why they follow me. But yeah.
How many did you do?
345. So I did them Monday through Friday. And I missed very few days, but Monday through Friday for 2.5, almost 3 years.
How did that impact you as a person?
Wow, that's a great question, Jay. I think it made me, I've always tried to, when I'm learning something, learning in a way that I can teach it. Learning to teach. And I think it made me much more intentional about that, because I knew I had content to create from it. So I need to understand it in a way that I could help it make sense. Because none of the ideas that I had were new. I just found someone who spoke to something that spoke to my heart or my head. Like, I understood where they were coming from. They just articulated it better than me. And which helped me articulate it. So if I'm listening and I'm finding something that like it just really makes sense to me, now I've learned it in such a way that I can share it with someone else in a way that hopefully has impact for them. But yeah, it definitely made me look at, when I'm approaching things, try to learn in a way to teach. I mean, it even changed the way I read. Like I consume a lot of books by Audible, but I try to bookmark them as I'm going through. And then eventually over the course of time, I'm going to go back to because I physically buy every book, to go back through every book and highlight the bookmarks, because then I've really read the book more than once and kinetically connecting it. Like, you're learning it in many of the learning styles. The ones I've done that with already, I feel like I'll never get them out of my head. Now, there's a lot of stuff in my head I wish I could get rid of. Like my youngest child says I'm not fun to watch Jeopardy with. So, because I don't give her a chance to answer. But yeah, like it kind of makes it deeper ingrained into my brain, so that I can pull it up when I need to and engage with whoever I'm speaking with in a way that I can either mentor or give them insight, or even point them to the direction of the book, podcast, or whatever I'm listening to.
Why do you think it's valuable for people that are listening to this that may not understand why you even go about putting your thoughts out there to the world? through these social platforms in this way. They're thinking, well, what's the value of that? Like, I got a 9 to 5, I got things to do, or yeah, I have this business, and ultimately, like, I have A, B, C, D, E, F, G I got to get done. How am I going to go do that too? Why would I bother going to do that too?
Alignments. I mean, like I said, it created an audience, and from that audience, I've discovered a lot of alignments. Like, there are people that came from, like, Jay, you're one of them. Like, you're an alignment in my life, and you just spoke to the fact that it changed what Culture Matters grew into.
It's true. Yeah.
And it wouldn't even have happened, right, if it hadn't have been. I mean, we connected before Answers from the Stairs, but I think Answers from the Stairs gave you more insight into who I was or who I am. And so it creates this, you understand there's a cultural alignment or of vision and heart and character and values. Well, if you're in any business, right, or trying to start a business, the best thing you can do is have some people that understand all that. They don't necessarily have to agree and think exactly the same as you, but if they are from the same character, even if they're the other side of your quarter. Is my middle daughter uses that term a lot. I've got a cousin who's Maria, and she's, according to Gabrielle, she's the other side of my quarter. She's the female version of me, right? So, but having someone who can be contrary, but has the same character and same value system, and which might seem odd. How do you have the same values, but you're contrary? Well, you just have different attributes. But lending your voice helps you find those things. I mean, there's a lot of people in my life right now that would not be there if it was not for those videos. Because I would reach out a lot and say, hey, I heard this, or I read this, it affected me. I decided to shoot some content. I'd love your thoughts. And the first person that reached back out to me was a guy named Tyler Harris in August of that year. So a month after I started, we started a DM connection. I met him in April of the following year, 2019, for the first time. I went to an event that he was a part of in South Carolina. And then I sponsored the next one in June, because I loved what he was doing when it came to how the support system that men specifically men need. That was in June. Sponsored another one in October, and then we were in Nicaragua together on a mission trip in November. So a year and 4 months after initial contact, we're serving in Nicaragua together, building homes, and that turned into a multitude of connections. He invited me to an event that I met a friend of mine that there's no less than 20 people in my life right now that would have never been there had I not stepped out and said, whether I think I can or I think I can't, I'm going to do it anyway. So I'm going to try. Had I not done that, like, those people would not be in my life. And some of them are just comrades, truly. Barnabas is in my life to stand beside me, and I can bounce ideas off of, and they hold me accountable to certain things. And then others are purely mentors. Like, I look up to them and try to glean from their knowledge, but they would not be in my circle today had I not woke up every day and got in front of a camera and said, good morning. Welcome to Answers from the Stairs, So
I want to read a passage from your book, Answers from the Stairs, Lessons from a Life Lived on Purpose. In the beginning, you said, throughout the vlog process, I often would reach out to whomever the inspiration of the day came from. On more than one occasion, the DMs became real connections that have created relationships and memories that will last a lifetime. So, adding to what you're saying, so this reach out to whoever, what is your advice to the person listening to this that's thinking, I'm afraid to reach out? Where do I start? How do I go about even doing that? What if they, and were you ever afraid or skeptical?
Oh, every time.
Hesitant?
Yeah, I was, that word imposter syndrome. I don't know if that's a real thing or not. I don't even know. But there's so much self-doubt. Why would anybody want to hear my voice? Up until the point that people start asking you, where's your voice? It got to be, oddly enough, very quickly inside of the first 5 or 6 months. If I didn't put a video out, I would get people messaging me, are you sick? Are you okay? So people were paying attention. So everybody's, the fear of using our voice just comes from us being, it's just a lack of confidence, I think. So the only way to gain confidence is to go through. To attempt. John Maxwell, he talks about vision a lot, and he talks about these stages of vision. And then there's like this, you see the vision, you catch the vision. I think it's committed to the vision. But if you got vision of what does life look like 30 years from now? What does your family look like? What does your business look like? What is your relationships like I call it genius circle. Like, who's in my genius circle? What does that look like 30 years from now? If you can write that down and kind of dissect it a little bit and then get committed to it. Well, one of the ways you can get committed to it is start taking action. And the only way you're going to pull people in to help you with that vision is to put yourself out there that people can align with you with that vision. So yeah, to answer that question, I was very afraid because I didn't feel like my voice mattered. And in the creation of the book, and that was one of the, I think it was probably one of the hardest exercises I've been through, because it was taken from those videos, the thoughts that came through the video. So going back and refreshing myself and listening to all 345 episodes, which is 29 hours of video, that's a lot. I mean, Lord of the Rings ain't got nothing on me.
Yeah, not even the trilogy.
Right?
Holy.
Yeah, 29 hours. And then
that's like Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars.
All combined, right?
Yeah.
But I just, as I was going through that, I'm like, man, why would anybody care? Why would anybody, constantly, why would anybody care? But I just kept trudging through it, because occasionally there'd be this light bulb episode. I'm like, man, okay, that's good. Like that, I could learn from that even today, and those would spark me to go to the next one. But I want to read something that somebody gave me. You said the book. So I got a message from a guy who had bought the book, and he says, I'm currently on day 3 of a 7-day cruise with my family. Had no idea whether this would get sent out or not. So he just really took a chance of sending this out. I chose 2 books to take on this trip with me because I knew 2 things. I didn't want technology in my face, and I needed to slow down to speed up. And I needed to reconnect my thoughts and take control of their health. On my journey toward that sanctification, I've had moments of time where I was winning by a landslide and getting my butt whipped all to high heaven. In each of these moments, I lost track and thought, I need to either speed up or slow down. He said, your book has done so much for my thought life this week. My whole family has to thank you for this book because it saved our vacation. The way you think aligns so much with the way I think. It grounded me, pointed me back to who I am. And he goes, I consider it a masterpiece that I'll treasure and have full intention of incentivizing my wife and kids to read it as well, to help them understand me. So he sees himself in the book. So it's as horrible and painful as all that process was, that, okay, well, how do you put a price on that?
Wow.
Because if he's the only person it affects, like it made all that worth it. If he's saying, man, it regrounded me, it reconnected me, my family is to benefit from it. I don't know of a better compliment that somebody could have paid me. So why get over the fear? Because you never know who you're going to affect. I mean, the one that you're sending the DM to, like one of the people I reached out to that created a connection, like he actually sent me a word of encouragement. He goes, you have no idea how many times the things you've sent to me, the things you've said have been at just the right moment that I needed to hear them. And then I had another one, same thing, DM connection, purely DM connection, reached out and said, have you got a moment? Yeah. So we actually got on the phone call and spent 45 minutes talking about a relationship issues that he was having with his wife. So you don't know the value somebody's going to gain until you actually use your voice, and using your voice to build up rather than to tear down. There's so many people using their voice to tear down things right now. I think the world needs voices that are going to build.
What did you learn about yourself?
Number one, I have a passion to know things. I'm a decent communicator. And my voice does have an effect. I mean, those are probably three things. Those are probably the top three things. That's a hard question because there's so much I learned, because even, one of the things I did pay attention to, I don't think you can do anything publicly and not pay attention to the people that don't like it. So, because they tell you a lot. And so there were some people that didn't like some of the things I was saying, and I would kind of do the same thing, reach out to try to have conversation. That usually didn't go anywhere. They just never, I don't know if it was the idea they thought they were being challenged. I never approached it from a challenge. I just, hey, I'd like to hear why not, and then I had someone in the organization at the time that really didn't like me doing them at all. And again, try to get her to use her voices to give me a why. And she never really could give me that answer. It just gave her a large level of frustration. So, but I think it made me try to approach even that, the ones that are dissenting. I think I've grown in that through that process a little bit.
What's the value if you're giving, you're having a conversation with the audience that's thinking, well, why bother even acknowledging the people that, seem to be the enemy around whatever you're saying?
Well, there's always some truth in what they're saying. You and I had a conversation last week about being able to, well, I don't know if it was you and I think it was another guy that's in my circle. We were talking about, listening to someone who has left an organization or not using you for a product anymore. And would ask them, hey, what could we have done better? Because they've got nothing to lose. So they're going to more than likely tell you more truth. Now, there's going to be some venom in what they say because of a bad experience or whatever. And you've got to be able to separate the venom from the truth, I think. But they're going to give you a way to get better. If you hear it, and it's here rather than, I think you heard me say this, rather than looking at it as criticism, looking at it as coaching. Life is full of coaches we just call them haters. And all we just have to do is listen to what they're saying and then discern, like I said, what's just venom because of whatever experiences they've been through, or, you know, the fact they spilled their coffee on their pants that morning, or whatever it is that puts them in a headspace to be negative. But there's probably some truth in what they're saying that could help you get better at how you're serving. So I think there's a lot of value in the ones that are haters, as the world likes to call them.
I'm going to repost that one. Wrote that down. Life is full of coaches. We just call them haters. Wow. What's something you learned about yourself or about a topic at hand that, you know, whether you recall the full details or not, from someone that originally, you know, could have been perceived to be the hater, the venom, the critic, the enemy? Is there any particular thought that comes to mind of, like, if you hadn't been open to that circumstance, you'd be less of who you are today?
I said a while ago that I have a passion to know things. And I think I know that causes me to give my opinion when nobody cares in conversational situations, and kind of being called out on that a couple of times of, hey, you don't always have to have a story. You don't always have to have an antidote. You don't all like it's, you know, and it's, I think that helps me be a better listener, because sometimes I just need to shut up, you know, oddly enough, on in a podcast where I'm the one doing all the talking, but sometimes it's just hush and listen, and keep your antidote to yourself, because it may not fit. And so I think people could say that's a hateful thing, you know, for somebody to say, you know, somebody, you know, people just don't care. We just recognize when it's appropriate, you know, and maybe the motive behind it, like understanding the motive behind wanting to jump into a conversation. My personality type, you know, a little bit dominant, outspoken, can have a tendency to be the center of attention. And sometimes it's better not to be. It's just really hard, but it's better not to be the center of attention.
Why?
Because you miss everybody else's voice. They'll fill the void. Somebody's voice will fill the void, you know, and that's an encouragement to people. You said people that are listening, maybe your voice needs to help fill the void, you know. Yeah, there's a lot of, you know, around a table of leaders in the leadership situations, the collective is way better than the one. And I think if there's a thing that I've learned from, you know, criticism, coaching, hating, whatever you want to call it, is like, you're smart. I think you actually said this to me. You're smart, but the group's smarter. You know, there's
Together, yeah, like us together.
So much truth. So much truth in that. So much truth in that.
What am I going to ask you this? Why should people read the book?
I think they should read the book to see my 30 days of thought.
And why? Well, okay. I like well, all right. So what's then the value? Why? And I guess, what is that to you?
The 30 days of thought?
Yeah. Why?
So
to you?
That was a really difficult exercise for me. I think it's meant to be difficult, you know. But it helps you really understand some of your thought processes, and those were going through and listening and finding the content I want to put in the book, going back through those, there were so many of those that I actually had shifted my thoughts on. So going back to those and re-examining my thoughts then versus now, and what's grown since then. But yeah, to your original question. So yeah, it's important to me. It was a very, very difficult 30 days. It actually got the least amount of social media attention of all 340 some episodes.
Wow.
But I think it's because you're talking about things that are abstract and really deep diving into who you are and what your values are and what your internal self culture is. And that doesn't always appeal to everybody, because it was an answer for me, but maybe not everybody else, and for who should read the book or why you should read it. The world, I said the world's full of critics, but the current state of the world is full of mentors too. You don't always have to be sitting across the table from one, they can be from a distance. That's what I considered that was mentoring from a distance when I was listening to the content and getting, I think the value would be a one filter for 345 coaching sessions of, hey, I live my life on purpose and with purpose. And by doing that, I've learned a lot of things. I've stumped my toe a lot. I've had some success. And here's just a few ways that I've seen that play out in my life just by examining it backwards. Like it's looking back and going, hey, how did that lesson come about and what did I learn? Yeah, I think it can help. I mean, according to that guy, ground you to a degree, because sometimes we feel like we go through something and we're the only ones that have been through that struggle, but if we can find someone who's been through the struggle and hear how they got through it, it might shorten our time in the struggle.
His answers from stairs coming back.
Oh yeah. Maybe in a different form. I don't know how yet. When the week the book dropped, I was speaking with a gentleman, and I actually had given him a copy of the book because he was integral in kind of pushing me into creating it. Because again, didn't feel worthy of writing, quote unquote, writing a book. And he said, I got a question. I miss the videos. I miss you speaking. When is that coming back? And I said, soon. I just don't know how. I just got to work out the logistics of what that looks like. So, yeah, it's coming back.
Can you shout out the other two published works?
We just the other one. I've only got one other one, and that's with my wife when we did Faith Family Fulfillment podcast, and we're still doing that. And our book came out last year. It was actually on our anniversary, our 26th anniversary. But it's called Faith Family Fulfillment: Insights from Faith-Based Couples. And what we did in that book was took our podcast conversations and turned them into 8 really good quality conversations that range from subjects like dealing with grief, which was our number 1 downloaded episode for a long, long time, to 2 pastors having a conversation about sex and marriage. So it runs the gambit. But I think there's a lot of insights there. There was a lot of really good takeaways from our conversations that Suzanne and I took away. And it did pretty well. But yeah, Faith Family Fulfillment: Insights from Faith-Based Couples. The clarity you need for the relationship you want was the name of that one. And then this one's just Answered from the Stairs. lessons learned from a life lived on purpose.
Chris, in closing, what do you want the audience to take away from this conversation? What's the call to action,
Yeah.
as they say?
There's a void in the world right now of positivity, uplifting language. And if you think you can fill that void, fill it. Just use your voice. A dear friend of mine, one of his favorite quotes is, "A rising tide raises all the boats." And I think we need more tide. We just need more uplifting wisdom messages out there. Use your voice.